What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Release Valve. I am your host, Sean Hanlon, and I am super excited to have my guest back on the show for a second time. She is the founder of JJ1 Coaching, where she helps people navigate life's hardest chapters and come out the other side of it with clarity, purpose, and power. I am both honored and privileged to be joined again by my friend Jessica Jone. Welcome back to The Release Valve, Jessica.
Hi, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it so much.
I'm still buzzing from the first conversation that we had.
Yeah.
I've gone back and listened to it a couple times, and yeah, I never really remember all of the things that we touch base on and talk about on these episodes. So going back every time, I'm like, oh wow, that was good,
You
or
know,
oh wow, this was great. It was such a
there's a
fun
gem, there's a
conversation.
gem.
Yeah, right. So there was so much
Yeah,
to take from that conversation. So I truly appreciate you coming back and sharing some more of your knowledge and insight with me.
of course, anytime.
So we discussed a little bit one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, and that was grief in all of
Hmm.
its forms. And I think that's such a good topic because at some point in our lives, in some way, shape, or form, all of us deal with grief somehow,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Or we don't deal with it, but we go through it. And that
Right.
was one of the big things that I'm so glad that you brought that up. One of the first questions I had for you was, can you grieve something that you've never had? Whether it's a dream, a version of yourself, a life that you imagined yourself having and you don't
Hmm.
have, obviously the loss of things.
Yeah.
What are all the different ways that you can grieve?
Oh, I think a lot of folks forget that you can even be grieving something from your childhood. Like maybe you didn't get into the school you wanted to go to. Maybe you didn't go to you go to college, or even go to the right or the high school you wanted to go to. Like you can go way back and find out maybe your best friend moved away and you're grieving that friendship to this day.
Mm,
And you just don't acknowledge those little things because your parents kind of guide you through those moments. And, being who knows 30, 40, 50 somethings, raising kids, that they're going to get on with it. They're going to find another best friend, and they typically
right.
will tell you that, right? You'll make more friends, you'll find people that you can connect with, or you can stay in contact. And now it's a little easier because we have social media, but so
Mm,
many parents won't let their children have social media, so they still don't have that connection that we think they have.
mm,
And we think that, maybe they can find each other later, and true, but that friendship has a gap and you have to kind of find each other. My youngest son, when he was in daycare, had what he refers to as his best friend from daycare. And they were two peas in a pod, hung out all the time. And then when they were 5, they went their separate ways to two different kindergarten classes and then on. And we, swore they would stay in contact because two peas in a pod, what would you do? And we were just down the street. We're both here in Colorado. Nobody moved away, just went in different directions school wise.
mm.
And, but we just, it didn't happen because then they find friends there, they get occupied there, and they don't remember to ask about, oh, can we go see Taylor? Can we go see this person? Can we, whatever.
Right.
So, but they found each other again in the sixth grade, and it took them to the 7th grade to kind of pick it up again. And now they're back to being two peas in a pod since 7th grade on. But they still talk about like the gap that they had. And you don't think kindergarten through 5th grade is a big deal, but it does help, your friendships, your how you make friends and your interests kind of
Hmm.
follow you. But they're not grieving like you would grieve someone who has passed,
Mm,
but grief, that definition, it should be expanded to beyond just life and death. It's loss
right.
of any kind you can grieve, and you can grieve it as deeply as you need it to be. If you didn't go to the right high school or the right college, or even just the college of your choice, sometimes that feels like I lost all my possibilities. And when you're
Mm,
in high school, that that is like thrown at you, right? You hear it from everywhere: social media, the commercials, your
hmm.
teachers, your mentors, your counselors, everybody. Got to go to school, got to figure out what you're going to do next. Or maybe you wanted to get into the military and you didn't get into the military because of, whatever diagnosis you may have had. Maybe physically you couldn't, pass that test. And so there's that dream that you thought you were getting ready for since maybe 15, 16 years old, or maybe even 14, depending. Maybe you grew up a military brat and thought that's the next step, and it just escaped you. So then you're grieving that person, and how long you grieve that is up to you. And maybe it'll always kind of come up, that feeling of, I didn't quite get there, or I didn't meet this expectation. And we never quite get over that hump until we actually have that conversation with whoever we thought that expectation was coming from. Maybe it was whoever was in the military, whoever went to that school, whatever alumni you were trying to please to go to that school. Or maybe you went to all the right places, but then I don't really want to be this person. I don't want to go into the medical field. I don't want to go into marketing. I don't, and you did it because that was the expectation. So then you're grieving the, who am I? I spent all this time being somebody else for somebody else. And now I have to grieve who I want to be now, or who I thought I was going to be, and all the time that I lost or thought I lost, and those of us that are, a little along the road more, know that you recover, but you have to acknowledge and you have to give space to that, whatever you feel like you've lost, whatever you feel that is missing, or it just didn't happen for you, but if you think, okay, I'm over it, and then it comes up again, it doesn't mean you're like hanging on it or you're holding on to it forever. It just means something is triggering you with wherever you're headed. That same feeling of, oh no, like a panic feeling, or just this, something's wrong, and then that will come up again. And then you have to just be able to sit and pause and recognize, okay, I've had this feeling before. What is it? And, and then just process through that so that you can move past whatever that is that's feeling like an uh-oh situation or uh-oh moment,
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's so huge. Acknowledging what it is that you're feeling and breaking down why you're feeling that way. I talk about it so much, and it's so hard. I don't mean to talk about it in a way that it's so easy, everybody just needs to do it, but that self-assessing that we all should do when it comes to our thoughts, our feelings, and our
Yeah.
emotions. Why, and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Be honest with yourself, not try to come up with all the excuses and the validations and all that type of stuff. Just really be honest. What is the root cause? What is the root source of the feeling that I'm feeling, which is causing me to react this way, or
Yeah.
whatever, fill in the blank. Yeah, really breaking it down and working through whatever it is that you come across, that you figure out is the root source, the root cause. Maybe it's just, a follow-up conversation with so and so.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even just acknowledging it, so that way you recognize it and you say, oh, okay, that's what that is, and then you can move on from it.
Yeah.
Finding out something else that you can do, especially if it were a certain career or sport, anything along those lines.
Yeah.
Don't spend the rest of your life living that what if.
Yeah. Yeah.
Find a way. A big thing for me when I was younger was martial arts. I wanted
Right.
to be some sort of a martial artist. My dad was a big Bruce Lee fan, so I became a big Bruce Lee fan. I wanted to, and then mixed martial arts became a thing, so I wanted to be a fighter. All these type of things, and then I stopped working out and training in different in all ways actually, and I spent a long time playing that what if.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, it was I could have been a champion, I could have been the best,
Yeah.
and this and that, and you get a little older, it's like,
Exactly.
no, probably not.
Yeah.
But but
Because you reassess,
right,
right?
exactly, because I also look at some of these athletes, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't have that drive that you have, what it
Yeah.
really takes to be a champion.
Yeah.
But I
That
also,
focus, that, yeah,
right,
determination. Yeah.
right. But I also realized that I still had a lot of regret because I didn't do anything with it. And
Right.
it took me a little bit to get into it, and things lined up for me the right way. But I eventually was able to get back into it in my way now. Now
Yeah,
that I'm a
right.
little older,
Yes.
I don't need to try to compete or anything like that. But if I can just practice these things
Hmm.
and work out in them and get better, I'm
Hmm.
kind of feeding that old self a
Yes.
little bit. I'm able to do it, and I'm able to pursue it my way and not have it be this overall takeover of my life. I can just
Yeah.
kind of revisit it and touch base on it when I need to, when I
Yeah.
want to,
You don't
and I
have to
feel
be in the
great.
gi to be that, to live that lifestyle or follow those tenets. You can just follow the tenets,
Right,
right?
right,
Right, right.
exactly. So yeah, I take karate now. I'm in kickboxing as well,
Hmm.
and I'm absolutely loving it. But I'm not competing. I'm not doing
Right.
tournaments or anything like that. I'm doing
Yeah.
it for my own my own joy of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I the feeling that I get when I do it, I'm brought back to my younger self when I was a
Hmm.
19-year-old, 20-year-old, when I
Hmm.
first started doing that type of stuff, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's such a nostalgic feeling for me, and so, and maybe that's not going to apply to everybody, but maybe
Right.
there is something that you can do to kind of get back in touch with that old self
Yeah.
and process that grieving,
Yeah.
instead that grieving, instead of allowing it to linger, allowing it to grow and
Right.
manifest into something ugly, something bigger.
And stop you from all the things that are coming your way or should be coming your
Right,
way, you
right.
know? Like you can use a crutch to wean yourself out of things too. So like I grew up, my dad was in the military, all that lifestyle was all I ever knew. And when he retired, he out processed, they walked him through all the things that he needs to do. And he went from a veteran, or, like an active duty soldier, to a veteran, a retired veteran. And so he still got to live that lifestyle. Me, however, and I still have my ID card from when I was 17 when he retired until I was 21. And then it went away. Nobody out processed me. Nobody said, hey, here's a temporary, you can come on the base and just smell the same air or whatever,
Right, right.
and just visit and hear the same lingo. Cause that was the only language I knew for 21 years at that point.
Hmm.
So, um, and I often say, military kids that are born and go through their whole young adult years being in the military with their parents need that out processing as well, need that. At least it was for me, that was my case. And when he retired, we moved back to Guam. And I'm so used to moving every 2 or 3 years, and I never quite grieved that lifestyle that I always knew. Like it was, I guess as a military kid too, everything gets pulled out of under you every 2 or 3 years, and you go do it over here, and then go do it over here, and
Right.
you're in different lifestyles, and that's the norm. So you get used to that. But then we retired, went back home, and here's the new norm forever. What do you mean? I don't know how to do that. So
Right.
I didn't know how to process that feeling because I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't think you had to. I didn't know that that was a piece of me that I was grieving. And when I was 17 or 19 or 21, I always thought grieving was the heavy crying, the devastation, the all that. And
Right.
I don't feel devastated, so it can't be grieving.
Right.
And years later, when I did suffer a true devastation, it's not quite the same. But it doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't, the grieving doesn't have to always equal devastation.
Mm.
It can be, you just lost this piece. And so my crutch to just feeling like I was close to that lifestyle that I was accustomed to was every 3 years. And mind you, Guam is 30 miles long, 7 miles wide. So,
Wow.
it's probably the size of an air base somewhere.
Right, right, yeah.
And so every year when my lease was up from my apartment, I would just move because it made me feel like normal for my normal.
Yep.
And I enjoyed that normal. So I would move. And and by the time I had my first child, and he could talk to me, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't keep changing because Now, he has to learn an address. Okay, which one? Because now I'm teaching him 7 different ones because we keep moving.
Right.
So, you start to settle into a different thing. But that was my crutch out of a military kid into civilian life because I needed it, and so if you could find ways to back yourself out of what you've always known, whether it's a relationship, a sport, goals, whatever it is, if there's ways that, and that's what I help my clients with, is finding ways to back your way out of what you might be grieving. First acknowledge and then find ways, right? So if you were with somebody for 25 years, married, the whole thing, and now you're divorced, it's hard to go from married 25 years to divorced one day, and so, or even separated one day. Like, that is such a drastic change. And for some can be of devastation. And while others, maybe it's just, okay, it's just time. But you still need that ease out of it. So, what is that for that person? And we discuss what those pieces can be for them to just get them out of that, and
Right.
find the new normal. Because everybody tells you that, find a new normal. But what is that? Like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't.
How? Where is it?
25
Let
years
me.
ago, now I'm back to that person. I'm not 25 years younger. So
Right.
who is this person? And then so we just started exploring. When I became an empty nester, because again, that was another point in my life where I'm grieving being a young mom, to little people that need me, that want to ask questions, that don't know this experience. And now they took off, like, okay, I'm
Right.
going to college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And okay, call me,
I'll just be here. I'll just. Yes.
somebody, hello, hello.
Oh man, yeah, that is
So,
tough.
but I decided, oh, maybe I just need to find what I like to do, because I didn't really have hobbies. My hobbies were their hobbies.
Right.
Driving them around became a hobby.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Because it's an all-in situation. So, but I went and I took a tap dance class. Never did it, but I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
And I felt like a 5-year-old in the class. I knew I wasn't going to be good at it. Didn't expect myself to be good at it.
Right.
But the teacher, the instructor, she kept saying, well, in May, and this was February at this time, and it was like 4 or 5 years ago, but in May we have like a all around recital that we want everybody to participate in. And everything in me shouted, no. Listen, I just want to hear the taps, and so I would try my hardest to learn these, steps she was teaching, but the tap was the joy that I wanted. And so I didn't need to perform. I didn't need any more classes. I think it was four
Right.
classes total. And it just brought me this like 5-year-old joy. And I reminded myself what that felt like. I helped myself go, oh, okay. This is okay. This is fine. It doesn't have to be a hobby. Like, you get into it, you buy the brand new shoes and the brand name shoes. And
Right.
now I'm going to go on these recite, like, no pressure, similar to what you were saying with the martial arts, it's
Yep.
just, it doesn't have to be this all encompassing, what I wanted when I was 5. I don't have to do all the recitals, because I'm sure if I did it when I was 5, my parents would have put me in the recitals and I would have, participated in that way. But it didn't have to be when I was, I don't know, 40 something or whatever it was.
Right.
So whenever I want to remind myself of that joy, and, I bought, I don't know that they were brand name, really good tap shoes. So it doesn't matter to me if I go out onto the concrete and I tap. I can hear the taps and I'm just like, oh, this is fun. And I pretend I'm good at it. Nobody knows.
Right. Right.
Nobody's judging. I'm not on American Idol or anything like that.
Exactly.
So, I just go and I do it like for 5 minutes. I'm out of breath. I'm okay. I got a good workout in. I'm good.
I love
I,
that though.
yeah.
Again, getting back to touching back into your inner child, and
Yeah.
just doing something for the love of it, for the fun of it, and
Yes.
leaving it there. Letting it be something with no pressure, like you said.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
no force that's driving you to you have to pursue this. Like, no,
Right.
I'm doing this when I want, how I want,
Yeah.
and for as long as I want, and just having fun with that.
Yeah.
I think that's
5 minutes,
huge.
10 minutes, once a week, once a month,
Right.
never.
Right. Yeah,
You
yeah,
just got to
exactly.
let the pressure off of yourself. There's
Exactly.
nobody, no expectation other than your own. But
Yep.
finding that little joyful moments can be also the crutch out of devastation.
Mm.
You know,
Yep.
uh, After losing my daughter in 2002, I didn't know how to come out of that. There was nothing anybody could have told me.
Yeah.
Nobody could have said, take this pill and you'll feel happy. I wouldn't have taken it. I
Right.
didn't know. I didn't know how to just remove that devastation out of my life. I didn't think I wanted to, because for me, removing that meant forgetting her,
Right.
and it just didn't make sense in my mommy brain,
Yep.
and our story is difficult because we were living on Guam. There wasn't a lot of care and health care that we could get there for her particular condition. She had a heart condition, a congenital condition, and so there we had to move. I had to move to Los Angeles and stay there from the point I was at 7 months pregnant till I gave birth, for her to receive the care, and for me to receive the care I needed prenatally, and then when she was born, get her to get the care that she needed. But no one ever said to us that she probably would never be able to go back home, because we were still maintaining our life back home. If
Right.
someone would have said to us, her condition requires you to move to the States, we would have moved a long time ago.
Up. Yep.
Yeah.
Say
And it would have
less.
been,
On our way.
yes, exactly. And it would have been easier on my family, because me having to go by myself added a whole
Right.
nother layer of trauma and devastation to everything else.
What if I was
Because now,
there? What if I this? What if I that? Yep.
yes. And all the decisions were on me by myself.
Right. Yeah. Hold on. Let me make a phone call real quick and run this by my
Yes.
husband, my family, to see
Yes.
if this is okay with everybody.
And
Oh,
then we're talking the change in, time, because Guam is a day ahead, like 15 hours ahead, and so when I call, it could be 3 in the morning, and my husband, had both the boys back home. So, it was hard for him to do that,
right.
because
Right.
we're so used to tag teaming, and now we're not tag teaming anymore.
Mm.
And we're both trying to do the right thing by all our children, even though he's got two, I've got this one, and so trying to figure that out was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you that I remembered everything. I tried very hard, and there's that guilt again that kicks in, because we all have parent guilt anyways,
Yep.
but add in now these pieces, right? I didn't remember this, I don't remember that, I didn't say this to this person, and I forgot to tell the doctor this part, and maybe I didn't say my right family history or all my family history, and
Right.
now they're making decisions without me. And so all that is just swirling on top of, okay, I have to eat. Never mind that. That's one thing I can let go, which isn't good, because then
Right.
everything cascades in your body. And I just gave birth. So all that is happening too.
Right.
So
Right.
there's just this storm happening, just brewing devastation every day, you
Mm.
know? So, but being there by myself, having to make all those decisions by myself, um, it was every day felt guilty.
Yeah.
Every day
Yeah.
was another layer of guilt that kept adding to it, because my job was to take care of her. Right? I mean, we all feel that as parents. Our job is to take care of her. Our job is to make sure that they get home safely, that they do all the things. And when she wasn't able to come home, let alone leave the hospital, just kept, you know,
Yeah.
compounding things. But life keeps going at the same time,
Right. Right.
So we go home. I still have these two boys I have to take care of. And I still have to grieve, but okay, wait, let me put that aside, because they need to be fed, they need to be showered, they need to be taken to school, we got to do homework, we got to, oh, this birthday party's coming, this, that, or, so all the things are happening.
Yeah,
And I
having to hit
forget, oh yeah,
pause on all these different fronts. Hold on, I can't do that right now. I got to deal with this.
yeah,
Hold, now I can't deal with that. I got to go do with this.
yeah,
Yeah, when do you have the time to grieve and process that and work
yeah,
through it and figure it all out and make
yeah,
sure that you're eating, making sure that
yeah,
you're sleeping, making sure that
yeah,
you're making this phone call and keeping this connection over here. And
right,
I mean that's tough in and of itself, even when there's no grieving to go
right,
on and process, right? Just to stay
right.
up on top of keeping all the balls afloat while you're juggling it. It's really really hard, and to
Hmm.
have two other young ones who don't understand at that age the level of devastation that just took place.
Right.
They just kind of keep moving on. Oh, okay, so there isn't going to be a little sister. All right, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I got this going on. They don't understand it. And I don't mean
Yeah.
to say that that's what they went through, but
Well, they were 7 and 1, so
well,
pretty
right, yeah,
much,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
The
pretty much.
1 year old doesn't know anything that's going
No,
on. So
no,
that yeah, that's that is
yeah,
so heavy
hmm,
to even fathom, let alone
yeah,
actually deal with.
hmm,
But another one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because obviously grieving looks different for everyone, and
right,
so in turn, getting through grief will look different for everyone. But is
right.
there one or more common processes of actually moving through grief?
I mean, there's the 5 steps of grief, and but I, there was a time where, okay, you went through each step and you were expected to be recovered. Everything is
Yeah.
better now. You've gone through the steps, and now we're going to move on. And now they're saying that those are just things that will come and go throughout your life. And what I've learned after, she passed in 2002, so and she was 2 months old. So I've spent majority of the time without her. And so what I've known now is every day, every year, every moment, every milestone that each of the boys have accomplished throughout their life, I've learned that that's just the other wave of grief that'll come in. And I'll hit another step of grief, whether it's anger or resentment or, depression or whatever that is. I'll hit them. But I know now, because I've spent so many years in this process, that there's another side to it. Because when it
Hmm.
first happened, I thought, this is how I'm going to feel forever. And I think we all get in that place, right?
Yep.
Like this is just going to be the new normal. And I heard that a lot from a lot of people. Well, this is your new normal. You'll get used to it, and
Yeah.
time will heal.
This is a
And
part of your identity now.
yes, and just be strong. And in my mind frame mindset at that time, I didn't know what that meant.
Mm.
It was more, especially when I was crying and someone said, just be strong. Okay, so must mean I shouldn't cry. So then, you stuff the feelings, right? You put that
Mm.
away, and you don't, that must be, I'm not a good mom if I'm not,
Right.
if I'm crying, I'm not paying attention to all my duties. So then another layer of guilt gets applied, and so when people come to me and ask, how do I get past this feeling? There's no how. What do you want to do today in this moment? What can I help you with right now?
Mm.
If there was a magic pill, magic wand, magic steps, we'd all have it.
Yeah, right.
But for me, my journey was, okay, today, back when I was living on Guam, I would go to her cemetery site and I would just
Mm.
sit there. And that's what made me feel better. So whatever makes you feel better in that moment, do it. If it's walking through the field and screaming, scream.
Right. Let it out.
If it's saying, if it's saying all the things, the angry things that might hurt somebody's feelings if you said it to their face, but just saying it in the mirror or saying it in your room, screaming it,
Mm.
do it.
Hmm.
I give you permission to do whatever it is that will make you feel better in that moment. I did driving. There are moments that it would just hit me, especially
Mm.
when I was driving to the cemetery. It would hit me and I would just scream,
Yep.
and then there were moments I couldn't because the boys are with me. What are they going to think if I'm screaming
Right,
mom,
right.
But there would be a song playing and it would trigger that feeling that it
Yeah, I
would
was going
come
to say that
over,
music has a tendency of really bringing emotions
bringing it
out of
up.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it wasn't even screaming. I just wanted to cry.
Yep.
So watch a commercial, you can cry. Watch a sad movie, you can cry. And sometimes it was, I almost wanted to feel that feeling of loss to
Mm-hmm.
just reconnect to all the things. Because sometimes though that feeling triggered a memory that I had long forgotten already. And because I used to remember all the days that she had her MRI, she had her scans, she had her this, that all the procedural times. I just needed it because that was her life. Her 2 months and 16 days was
Right.
spent with all the nurses. I needed to remember all their names, what they looked like, what they did, and, their stories. Because if I was going to tell Haley's life story for a 2 month old, how do I do that without referring to everybody that helped her live? Because a
Oof.
lot of her days were spent unconscious. She was in a
Yeah.
medical coma.
Right.
She had 4 open heart surgeries and a trach in 2 months and 16 days. Some people can't even do that when they're 50, 60, 70, 80
Right.
years
Right.
old.
Right.
So she was stronger than anybody I've ever known in my life. Anybody I've ever known in my life. She gave me those 2 months and 16 days that I needed as a mom to be able to say, I'm a mom of a little girl. I am now a mom of an angel, and I I produce that amount of strength in another human being,
Mm.
and I can do the same. So in the moments I couldn't be strong and I couldn't push through, I wait a minute. My DNA, my husband's DNA, created someone that incredibly strong. I can do this because I have 2 people looking at me. My daughter's looking at me,
Right.
you know? So I have to personify some of that strength for her.
Mm.
She learned it from somewhere. She got it from somewhere.
Right.
If I created her, it's got to be in me, you know? But then there were moments where I was like, okay, it can't be. Not today. It's just not today.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, turn away, but I'm going to cry.
Yeah, I
Turn
think that's so
away.
important too because it doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be that rock solid, hardened strength to where
Yeah.
you're just impenetrable. You
Yeah.
have to be able to
Yeah.
let it out, pun intended, release. You
Yeah.
have to be able to yeah, release that pressure that's building up because otherwise you'll
Hmm.
explode and it's always 100% of the time when that explosion happens, it's going to be misplaced. It's going to
Yeah.
be directed towards somebody that doesn't deserve it. It's going to be in a way that is counterproductive and
Yeah.
make things worse. And then you got to do damage control with that.
Right.
And so finding that time to, yeah, scream if you have
Yeah.
to, cry when you need to,
Tap
talk,
dance.
tap dance. Yeah, right, right. Punch
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, find out what that is that gives you that sense of relief
Yeah.
and allows you to then, okay, pick yourself
Yeah.
back up and then move
Yeah.
forward feeling better because yeah when you have that lingering feeling of not processing some sort of
Mhm.
grief or whatever the case is it gets heavy, it gets
Yeah.
so heavy and it
Yeah.
gets so hard and the more that you don't acknowledge it the bigger it gets, the stronger
Hmm.
it gets, the harder it gets to then in turn acknowledge it because then it's this big,
Right.
huge thing that you have to let go of. And as opposed to, I just needed to hit that, again, pun intended, hit that release
Yeah.
valve.
Hmm.
And then, okay, whew, I'm good, moving
Yes.
forward.
Yes. Like on her birthday, I didn't think I'd be able to celebrate her birthday. I didn't think I would be able to
Yeah,
acknowledge her anniversary of the day that she passed. No one gave me these permissions. And that's
right.
why in my business, I folded in grief because no one ever said these things to me. I've
Ah,
never heard it anywhere that you have permission to be angry. I thought, okay,
mm,
I'm a mom of an angel, and I gotta act a certain way. I didn't, and but I didn't know how to act. But
right, right.
if someone gave me permission back then to be angry, just in the space. It would have done so much for my grieving process,
Yeah.
but I couldn't be. I wasn't supposed to be because I had to be strong. I had to show the kids that it'll be okay, but it wasn't. It
Yep.
just wasn't okay. So I needed the ability to just say, no, it's not okay. But that was okay to say, I'm not okay.
Right. I think that's such a big thing for so many people. I don't know if it's something that they feel less of a
Right,
mother or a father or a human being
right.
or whatever the case is by being able to admit that you're not okay. That's why I love
Hmm.
that saying. It's so cliche, but it's okay to say you're not okay.
Yeah.
And so many people struggle with that.
Hmm.
And I mean, again, I obviously I don't know your father,
Hmm.
but even somebody coming from a military family, like that was a big thing with
Yeah.
military men and or military people in
Yeah.
general is you don't talk about those things that you're struggling with. You're a soldier, you
Mm-mm.
got to go and you got to do the thing. You
Mm-mm.
got a mission, and
Yeah.
that's there's no room for all of that.
Right.
And so being able to talk about that type of stuff. And I love the fact that again you've had so many aspects of your life that you've then in turn incorporated with your profession now.
Right.
These are the things that I struggled with. These are the things that I didn't have when I was younger. These are the things that I needed. I'm now
Right.
going to be somebody that helps provide that for those people, those other people that are missing those things as well.
Yeah.
To show them, because again, if you had somebody, you could have had everybody that never experienced anything that you went through say, oh,
Hmm.
do this, oh, do that. And it's just not going to resonate the same way. But if you
Right.
had somebody that has actually gone through the things that you went through and say, I know what you're feeling,
Hmm.
describe that a little bit and say,
Yeah.
this is what helped me. This is
Right.
what didn't help me. That's a
Right.
game changer. Like you said,
Right.
that's what's going to allow you to actually get through these things, to really process that grief, to one acknowledge it, two work through it, and
Right.
then and build yourself up in that way. Again, I'm so I think it's so cool and to a lack of a better way of putting it, I just think it's one of the most honorable things that somebody can do is to
Mm.
turn the struggles that they've had in life and be there for other people in that way.
Right.
So again, I kudos to you. I think
Thank
that
you.
that's so amazing that you're able to do
Yeah.
that. Again, and bringing it back to even being able to acknowledge it. How do you help a client who doesn't even know that they are grieving or that they need to grieve, that they need to process this?
It comes out in conversation. I don't know this. And it always starts off with what is top of mind.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just, we're having just a casual conversation over dinner, and the conversation always leads there. And most of the time they don't know that they're grieving who they were, what they were, the person they wanted to be in a relationship because of a former relationship. It's jaded them. It's curved how much they want to invest into the next relationship. Like I start to hear things that come up. Oh, I used to do this. I used to be that. I had this relationship. I did this. I didn't go to school. I woulda, coulda, shoulda. There's like a lot of regrets that come up.
Mm.
So we get deeper into that conversation of regrets, and in like what I was saying with my diagnosis, I regretted not paying attention to my symptoms because I was being told it's grief, it's anxiety, it's there's no way you could have this at 30 something years old. And yeah, there is. But someone had to take the time to see it and hear it and point it out. And so
Mm.
with clients, when they get to talking about it, I have to kind of gently say, is there a possibility you could be grieving that relationship? Did you grieve that relationship? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I went through it. I cried, and
Yeah, I'll be
I
fine.
moved
Yeah.
on, and, all is good. And it's the brushing off that I'm like, okay, let's just
Mm.
honor this just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it can be just a quick 5-minute thing. And I'll say to them, okay, if it's blocking the relationship, what would you say to that person right now? What are the things that you didn't get to say to them that you would say right now in all your hindsight and all what you've learned? And according to you, of all that you've gotten through and grieved and processed, what are the things that you would want to say? I don't want to say anything to them. I don't want to, but okay. But
That's a very
let's just
telling
say,
sign.
yeah, let's just to close this part of the conversation, let's just say the things that you need to say. And you just feel this pause and hesitation, and they don't want to bring it up, but they are bringing it up. So let's just say just one thing. Just tell me one thing, and just gentle encouragement to get them to say it. And they'll say the one thing, and then one more thing, and one more thing, and it's just this. You don't want to open the whole can of worms, but you do
Right,
want to
right.
let the steam out just a little,
Yep.
and then it helps them acknowledge what comes next and why, why that's coming up and why maybe that relationship is affecting the next relationship and maybe why, you're not finding that passion in your job anymore, or maybe you regretted going into a certain industry, and okay, so let's talk about that. Let's say to ourselves, what was the reason for the regret? Because maybe it's not even regret. Maybe you just needed to learn that, and now you're in this industry, or you're now in this position, or, you
Right.
know, like I always thought I regretted never going to medical school because I think that was one of the things that I was really good at. But I think it was more because of all the medical issues that my children had, that I had, and I
Right.
just kind of was drawn to it, and it makes sense in my head. But it helped me be a better mom. It helped me when I had what I considered a big diagnosis, even though the doctors weren't considering it a big diagnosis. Um, it helped me understand some of it. I don't have to be the physician. And back to what we were talking about with martial arts and, all the other things, you don't have to be the physician or have had to have gone to medical school to appreciate all that I've learned along the way. And just ask the questions, say the things, be that representative of what I know of, medical history or diagnosis or whatever. Is I have a question. I need to know this, or you
Right.
know, um, I think the reason I behave this way or that I feel this way is, XYZ. And the more you practice being able to say these things, the easier it is to actually process it. And, even if you only process a quarter of it today and then you process more 2 years later, okay. No one says you have to do everything in this moment, in this week, in all the things. I'll
Yeah.
never be over grieving my daughter, ever, but I will
Right.
grieve her forever. So, you know, some days I can actually celebrate that the first time her dad flew out to see her, that was her first smile. And I was insulted. I was the one that was there
You're
every
like, hey,
day.
hey,
Yeah.
hey! I've been here this whole time. What is this?
And she heard his voice as he walked into the room, and the smile came.
Oh,
And it was so beautiful, but hey, hey,
yeah.
hey, you know,
Right.
I know you're the patient. I know you're not feeling good, but you don't get to smile at your dad. And it was so moving that her nurse, she was probably, I'm a little island girl, but her nurse was this probably 6 foot woman, redhead, bright red freckles on her face. And, she had I think it was even like an orange scrub. So it just made her kind of this like fiery look.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
she came to bedside and she even scolded her. She said, "Hey, little girl, your mom and I are here every day doing all the things. You don't get to, and so like there was this really normal moment, that
Yeah.
I can walk away with a happy memory.
Yep.
I find the nooks and crannies of the day, because then other days I remember when, sitting bedside and she just, nothing was helping her.
Yeah.
And, having her chest, I could see inside her chest because they had opened it for her open heart surgery. So,
Hmm.
and and I'm just like, those things I used to not be able to say because there
Right.
was such devastation in the words. But saying it helped me to be able to get to that point of saying it. I even created a jewelry business where I was able to fund a scholarship in her name on the year that she would have turned 18 and the year she would have graduated. I offered that scholarship to a young lady. Well, I offered to everybody, but the woman that, or the young lady that won it, she was from another country, and she was going to go learn linguistics, I believe was her major,
Wow.
here locally in Colorado. And, just to, and all I asked in return was for a ticket to graduation so I can watch her cross the stage, because I wasn't going to be able to see my daughter cross the stage.
Right, right.
So I did that to be able to turn what would have been a very, and it still was, I was bawling. And
Sure.
it was COVID, so we couldn't go. And, I ended up just watching it live stream. They had it at that point.
Yep.
But I got to watch a young woman cross the stage, cap and gown, everybody cheering. And it helped me close that chapter, because for
Mm.
me, that year, it was more emptier than not, because the year before my youngest son had graduated. So
Okay.
I've always known every time he, accomplished something, the following year there was going to be an emptiness.
Yep.
And it was going to be louder because both boys were out of the house at that point.
Yeah.
So how I filled my void was I created a purpose. And that's what I also tell my clients is, you can create purpose out of this pain, whatever it
Yeah.
might means. Maybe it's just you get a birthday cake for the person you're grieving, or maybe you go to dinner and celebrate a past relationship that maybe you really are over. It doesn't have to be this big thing, right? So I had that scholarship, watched across the stage, cried a few minutes, and then
Mm.
I proceeded with my day. And it just it just marked the occasion in a different way, in a
Yeah.
giving way, in a full way for me.
Mm.
So as devastating as that is, it's still, I put a little bit of joy in there, in that I gave her a
Yeah.
small way that I could help her do, fulfill her college dream, right? Because for me, I
Ah,
require all my children to go to college, and the boys did it. And again, it's going to be one of those things that she wouldn't been able to do. But
right.
I turned it into purpose, created a small business, had a small scholarship, offered it out.
Ah,
And, I opened the scholarship on my oldest son's birthday. I closed the scholarship on my youngest son's birthday. I announced the scholarship winner on Haley's birthday.
wow.
So, you can do these things to help
Yeah.
you and help you grieve, like something as small as tap dancing, going back to your martial arts days. These are just little joys that can change those big days, and
Absolutely.
help everything just kind of come together, and
Man, that is so beautiful. I
yeah,
absolutely love that.
yeah,
I I think it's so important to yeah, obviously acknowledge it, but to take some sort of action that you can pull away a positive
hmm,
memory from and look at it in a new light. That
yeah,
easily could have been a day that every day this year you get drunk because
yeah,
it was the hardest day of your life, and then the kids know it as, well, now this is a time period that we can't even be around mom because she's got
right,
to go through her thing, she's got to do this, and it becomes such a negative
right,
thing in multiple people's lives. You were
hmm,
able to turn it around and not have it be that heavy burden that you had to carry for the rest of your
hmm,
life. It turned into something beautiful. You helped somebody in such a huge way, and
hmm,
in turn, you were able to get a girl to cross that stage.
right,
And now you can look back on it in that light.
Hmm.
You had all of your you had both of your kids, both of your sons, and then now you had a girl across the stage, and it was because of the action that you took. And
Hmm.
I just, that is one of the most amazing things I've ever heard before in my life.
Yeah.
I can't even put into words how awesome I think that that is that you did that, and you helped change somebody's life, and in turn you helped change your life. You helped
Yeah.
change it in such a positive way that you easily could have succumbed to all of those big heavy feelings
Yeah.
that you would have had every right to. You would have
Right.
had
Right.
every single right,
No
every
one would have
single
blamed me.
reason. Nobody
Right.
would have blamed you.
Right.
Everybody would have agreed with you and been a part
Mhm.
of that negative suffering,
Yeah.
and you chose not to. The amount of strength that that takes is is next to, I mean, it's insane. Like, I
Yeah.
can't even, you don't even know what you're capable of until you're in moments like these, and you choose to go right instead of left.
Yeah.
You, because other than actually being in that situation, it's just a what if moment. But when you, and I think everybody would be so surprised at how much strength they actually have in them
That's
if
it. That's
you
exactly
allow
it.
yourself, if you allow yourself to have
Hmm.
that strength, because you can allow
Yeah.
yourself to crumble, to fold and
Right.
break, but you can also allow yourself to be strong. And
Right.
hopefully it doesn't take that to go that to that level of devastation in life
Yeah.
for you to figure out how strong you are.
Hmm.
But everybody is so strong, so much stronger than they think they are, so much stronger than they
Yeah.
allow themselves to be. And again, to be able to do something so life changing in a positive way, I I don't even know what to say to you. That is just so amazing.
Yeah.
I can't even think
But
of a better way to put it right
everybody can
now.
do this, and that's what I help my clients with is finding the ways to make a difficult memory or a difficult loss,
Oh, it's beautiful.
whether it's someone passing or a relationship or a goal not accomplished or a career change. There's ways to make that okay for yourself. And
Yeah,
sometimes it just starts with acknowledging I'm not okay, and it's making me
right,
angry, and blah blah blah. And so you can just start there and then go from there, and make the next step, right? You may, some of us, there's a lot of us out there right now that are losing their jobs. They're losing their identity within that job. And,
right,
the command of that career that they thought they had gets wiped out in, a day. And I've been laid off before. And so, having a job on Tuesday, losing it on Thursday it spins your head, but being able to just sit down in a room, even by myself or with whoever, is accompanying me, and just saying, this sucks, and this
right,
makes me angry. And why didn't you pay attention to budget? And why didn't you, XYZ, and just name all those things. And then, okay, and it's just something about letting out those emotions that can reset you to a different momentum in moving forward.
mm,
Because if you don't acknowledge it and you're applying, then you're angry applying. You're applying to all the jobs you
right,
don't want anymore, and this could be that chance that you do change careers, you change industries, you change direction. Maybe you go and get a certification that makes you go down a different path, and then you're just happier,
yep,
and you're doing things that you actually want to do. You didn't fall into this career, over time, and you got promoted, and the promotion gives you that second wind to keep doing it. But once you don't have the job anymore, you kind of sit back and you might even think, I don't really want to do this.
I don't want to do that in the first place. Yeah,
No.
yeah,
And you can accumulate all your experiences to create a different path and still be in the industry or be still have that command of that career and your experiences to make a consulting business, be a life coach, be a
right.
business coach, or you just open your own business. Maybe you've learned enough, you just never had the time to sit back and go, oh, wait a minute, now that I've been laid off, I can actually think this through and create my own
Yep.
business. And maybe you've always wanted to invent something, and now you have the time to invent something, and that could turn into this huge thing for you.
Right.
And so there's just different perspectives that I try to offer my clients when they hit that wall, and that's
Yeah.
what I've done for myself as I've grieved different pieces of myself throughout my life, is just try to find that release valve
Right. Yeah.
so that
No,
I could
absolutely.
continue.
I love how you've been, again, I said this before, how you've been able to shape your coaching based off of your life
Hmm.
experiences and the things that you've had happen to you and the things that helped you and again the things that didn't help you, and you can help other people in that same regard. I mean, if what do you want somebody who is listening to this conversation, what would you want them to walk away with after hearing this?
You have permission to feel everything you feel in the moments that you're grieving, in the moments that you're losing something, no matter what the degree is, whether it's devastation or you lost a nail. You have
Right.
the capability to make it a different situation for yourself. You have the permission again to be all that is in that moment. And then you can make it, you can multiply it from there, and not in a negative way. You can multiply it in a positive for yourself to then move forward from there.
I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Grief has a way of making us feel alone.
Hmm.
And
Isolated.
yeah, right.
Hmm.
But with what you've shared today, I feel that it's a good reminder that grief is actually one of the more human things that we can experience in
Yes.
life, and that we're not alone when it comes to that.
And
So,
it actually connects us in a
right.
way that you don't see because you are so turned inward.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right, exactly. How I've talked about it in the past is having like horse blinders on and
Yeah.
only seeing what you have right in front of you
And
and
only feeling
completely.
that pain.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And sometimes it feels good to, it sounds bad, but to hear that somebody else is going through something, that they've had a
Yeah.
major life event that affected them in such a way. And again, you get that kind of that feeling that, all right, I'm not alone. Other people
Yeah.
are going through things as well. And I think what helps, and it's helped me, maybe it won't help everybody, but I think it's a big thing that it does help more than you think, is being there for somebody else when they're going through something, especially if it's something that you've experienced.
Right.
And again, that's why I commend you for the work that you do, because you've literally made a career out of doing that and being there for people in that way. Uh, I I'm just so blown away by not just the things that you've gone through, but how you've been able to turn them around and turn the seemingly negative aspects of life into a positive, and
Hmm.
are helping other people along the way now. It's one of the more beautiful, one of the most beautiful things that you can possibly do with your life. And again, I just congratulate you for being able to do that.
Thank you.
You are an amazing human being, and I am more than privileged and blessed to have met you, known you now, and to I like to say that you're a friend, and so to be able
Yes, of
to
course.
share this space with you and talk about these things with you, I just truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And you are my blessing as well, because being able to share this helps me as much as it can help other people as well. So, we all are in it together, and we can get through it as long as we lean on each other a little bit. And
Yep.
that's the nature of what I do, is just giving someone a shoulder to cry on, back to lean on if they need it,
Right.
arms to hug you if you need it, those types of things. It's it's what makes life worth living.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for coming back on
Thank you.
and sharing more of your story and blessing me and the audience with more knowledge and insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're gonna have to do it again.
Yep, we
Sorry,
are.
sorry, not
This is going to
sorry.
be a
Gonna
weekly
have to do
thing,
it
you and I.
again. Right. I need my JJ1 coaching release.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you again, and thank
All
you
right.
everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.